In this lesson, we are going to talk about finding the x-intercept using factoring and also plotting the graph of quadratics, which is a parabola. Now, as we know, the quadratic equation are in the form of y equal ax plus b, x plus c, and hopefully we can factor them out and then we can find the x-intercept. How do you find the x-intercept? Is when y is equal to 0. And as you remember from the previous lesson, then we have to find the solution to this type of equation, which is the product of two binomials. So we are going to start with one example. The question is that if I have a quadratic like y equal x squared plus 8x plus 7, I have to find the x-intercepts, the vertex, and then plot the graphs. The graph of this quadratic. First, this is a quadratic. The leading coefficient is 1, so I can use the sum product method. Find two numbers that the product is 7 and the sum is 8. Those two numbers are 1 and 7. So I can write y is equal to x plus 1 times x plus 7. 7 times 1 is 7, 7 plus 1 is 8. Now to find the x-intercept, y is 0, so I have to solve this equation. The product of two numbers is 0, so each one has to be 0. So x plus 1 is equal to 0, well x plus 7 is equal to 0. From this one I get x is negative 1. From this one I get x is equal to negative 7. Now, to find the x-coordinate of the vertex, I add these two and then divide it by 2. So negative 1 plus negative 7 divided by 2 is going to give me negative 8 divided by 2, which is negative 4. To find the y-coordinate, I substitute negative 4 back in the equation instead of x, and then I simplify. And when you simplify, you get negative 9. So the vertex is negative 4, comma negative 9. I'm going to find the y-intercept too. The y-intercept is the constant, which is 7, when x is equal to 0. Now I'm going to use these points to plot the graph. The vertex is negative 4 and negative 9. So negative 4 is x, negative 9 is y. So I get this point. The x-intercepts are negative 1 and negative 7. So I get negative 1, which is this point, and negative 7, which is this point. Now, the y-intercept is 7, so the y-intercept is here. We know that the line which goes through x-coordinate of the vertex is the axis of symmetry, which is dividing the parabola into half, which are mirror of each other. So if the y-intercept is 7, if I go 4 units to the left of the the axis of symmetry, I get the other point. So 1, 2, 3, 4, so I get this point. Now I have enough point, I can connect them together and I get a curve like this. The second example is exactly like the first one, but this time the leading coefficient is 2, so I can't use sum and product method. So I'm going to use AC, which is 2 times negative 6, which is negative 12, and b is negative 1. Find two numbers that they add up to negative 1. The product is 3. So those two numbers that they add up to negative 1 and the product is negative 12 are negative 4 and 3. So I can write this equation as 2x squared. Instead of negative x, I write it as negative 4x plus 3x minus 6. Since I have to find the x-intercepts, y has to be 0, so I have to solve this equation. Now I take these two and these two together, and from the first one I factor out 2x, I get x minus 2 plus, from the second one I take 3 out, so I get x minus 2 is equal to 0. X minus 2 is common, so I get 2x plus 3 is equal to 0. I get two equations, x minus 2 is equal to 0, so from here x is 2. The next one, 2x plus 3 is equal to 0, so I get x is negative 3 over 2, which is negative 1.5. Now, to find the x-coordinate of the vertex, I add the x-coordinate of the intercepts, x-intercepts, and then divided by 2. So 2 minus 1.5 divided by 2 is going to give me 0.25. For y-intercept, the y-coordinate of the vertex, I use the equation and I sub back 0.25 in the equation. So I get v of y is 2 times 0.25 squared minus 0.25 minus 6. If you simplify this one, then you get negative 6.125. So from these two, I get the vertex is at 0.25 and negative 6.125. The last point I'm going to find is y-intercept, which is when x is equal to 0, which is going to be equal to negative 6. Now I have enough points to go ahead and plot the graph. First of all, the x-intercepts are 2 and negative 1.5. So this is 2 and negative 1.5 is going to be somewhere around here in the middle. The vertex is at 0.25 and negative 6.125. So it's going to be somewhere around here, approximately. The y-intercept is at negative 6, so it's going to be here. Now, again, as usual, we know that the axis of symmetry goes through the vertex, so the y-intercept is going to be the same distance to the right, so it's going to be a point like this one. Now you have 5 points, so you're going to just connect these points together to get the graph of 2x squared minus x minus 6. The next example is to find the x-intercept and the vertex coordinate of the vertex of negative x squared minus 6x minus 9. Again, we know that the x-intercept is when x is equal to 0, so I can make this guy equal to 0. To factor this one, I will multiply everything by negative 1 to get rid of negative 1 in the leading coefficient, so I get x squared plus 6x plus 9 is equal to 0. Leading coefficient is 1, so we use sum and product method. Two numbers, the product is 9, sum is 3, so those two numbers are 3 and 3. So I can write this guy as x plus 3 times x plus 3 is equal to 0. I get two solutions which are the same, x is equal to negative 3. Now to find x coordinate of the vertex, I add these two, -3 plus -3 divided by 2. I'm going to get -6 divided by 2 is -3. Then I'm going to substitute it back in the equation to find the y coordinate of the vertex. I get -6, -3, minus 9, and the answer is going to be 0. So from here we get the vertex is -3 and 0. I'm going to go ahead and find the y-intercept. This means that x is 0, also the y-intercept is the constant, which is -9. Now we have enough information to go ahead and plot the graph. The vertex is -3 and 0, so the vertex is going to be right here. Now we know that the leading coefficient is -1, so the parabola opens down. The y-intercept is -9, which is going to be here. We know that the axis of symmetry is right going through the vertex, so the y-intercept is going to have its mirror 3 units to the left, 1, 2, 3, so it's going to be right here. So our graph will look like something like this. The next example is the graph of a parabola is given and you're supposed to find the equation in the form of ax squared plus bx plus c. First, if you look at the graph, you can see that the x-intercepts are 4 and 0 and -2 and 0. So in factored form, I can write y is equal to a, the leading coefficient, x, plus the first x-intercept, which is 4. So I'm going to write x minus 4. And the next x-intercept is -2, so it's x plus 2. The reason that I changed the sign is that, remember, if I want to find the x-intercept, I have to make this guy equal to 0. If I solve x minus 4 equal to 0, I get x equal to 4, which is 1, and x plus 2 equal to 0, I get -2. Now, to find a, I'm going to pick a point which is given here, 2 and 16, so I'm going to say 16 is equal to a, 2 minus 4 times 2 plus 2. If you solve this one, you get 16 is equal to 2 minus 4 is -2, 2 plus 2 is 4, so it's -8a. Divide by -8, I get a is -2. So we get y is -2, x minus 4, x plus 2. Since the question requires the quadratic in standard form, I'm going to expand this. I'm going to get -2, x times x is x squared, x times 2 is 2x, x times -4 is -4x, -4 is -8. This is equal to -2 x squared, -2x minus 8. Now I distribute -2 inside, I get -2x squared. -2 times -2 is plus 4x. -2 times -8 is plus 16. And also, if you look at this one, -2, parabola is opening down, so everything seems to be okay. The last thing is y-intercept is 16. If you look at here, the y-intercept is also 16. The last example is an application. In this case, we have an arc which is in the form of a parabola. Since the equation of the arc is given and the leading coefficient is negative, we know that the arc looks like this because it opens downward. Now, the question that it's asking is how wide and how tall is the arc? if we know h represents the height and d represents the horizontal distance from the center of the arc. Now, to find the maximum height and the distance, we have to find the vertex. So I have to solve h is negative 2 squared plus 16 equal to 0 to find the x-intercepts. From here I get d squared is equal to, I move d squared to the right, d squared is equal to 16. Take the square root, d is plus or minus 4. Remember, d is not 4 only, it's plus or minus 4. So this is 4, this is negative 4. Now to find the x coordinate of the vertex, or d coordinate, here d represent x, is 4 plus negative 4 divided by 2, which is 0, and the y coordinate, which is h coordinate, is negative 0 squared plus 16, which is 16. So we can say that the vertex is 0 and 16. So how wide is the arc? This much, which is 4 minus 4, which is 8 meters wide. And how tall is it? Is this, which is equal to the d coordinate, h coordinate of the vertex, which is 16 meter. The second part of the problem, it says for what values of these the relationship valid. If you look at the relationship was negative d squared plus 16. We know that h, which is the height, has to be greater than 0. So negative d squared plus 16 has to be greater than or equal to 0. If I move negative d squared to the right, I get 16 has to be greater than or equal to d squared. If I take the square root of both numbers, both sides, I get d is less than or equal to 4, greater than or equal to negative 4. And as you can see, any number between 4 and negative 4, if you square it, is going to be less than or equal to 16. So that's the range of values that d takes. It also says that if the width of a lineup is 2.5 meter, how many lineups can you have? Okay, to explain what exactly this part of the problem is talking about, this is your arc. It's saying that the lineup of people, let's say the people are lining up like this to go inside under the arc. If the width which is required for each lineup is 2.5 meter, how many lineups can we have? We found out before, if you go back to this part, that the width is 8 meter. Now, if 2.5 is the width per lineup, if I divide 8 by 2.5, I get about 3.2. This means that 3 lineup are possible, not 4.